Today is Christmas Eve. When this video goes up, you have already celebrated Christmas, opened your presents, done the Boxing Day, spent the last of your money, and are now probably sitting here with a stomach ache, resting after you've eaten too much candy, and hopefully spent a lot of good time with your loved ones and friends, and maybe just gamed, because that's what I always did on Christmas when I thought it was the most boring. Happy holidays, everyone. Looking forward to a better new year and to celebrate the new year. I don't know if this Christmas sale will still be out, but on AceZone, you can always use code launders 10% off. And currently you can get 120 euros off the AceZone Aspires or 100 euros off the AceZone Aspire wireless cans. You know I highly recommend that. I am the brand ambassador for AceZone. I am the Counter-Strike elitist. We just hit 10K on Twitter in our group, and now we've got to present the top 10 players of 2024, starting with number 10 in this video, ending on number 6. Let's get into it. It's been an awesome year of development for a lot of players on this list. A few more than the one I'm about to mention, a player from Mouse Sports who I have higher probably than anyone else due to his consistency. Number 10, Torji. Few players have improved year over year like Torji has. In the We Play Academy days, the question was always, well, yes, Torji is the best opper on the best team, which was Mao's NXT with Shuhei, the same team you're sort of looking at today. Very similar, I should say. But in the Academy days, Mao's were winning, Torji was the best player, but Monesi was over on Navi Jr. putting up better numbers, just not on the best team. And the question was, in the long run, who's going to be better, right? And here we are. And what's amazing is to be able to say that two players from the Academy League are now two top 10 players in the world. Now, that might just be my list, okay? But even being close to that is pretty phenomenal. Love to see that development route work. But this is not about the development route. It's about Torji this year and how he's earned his place in the top 10. And for me, Torji's early flaws were almost always about consistency. He was an opper who was brave, who was willing to go for a lot of pick plays and make them work. He was very smart in mid-round moments. He was always hitting difficult shots, but he was never consistent enough to feel like an elite opper. Well, this year, I think he's brought his consistency way up. I think he's brought his rifle play way up, even though that was always good. And I think, honestly, his one drawback somehow is just the raw opping in some of the more important games. He's having huge impact, but not always just with his primary weapon. So Torji, the numbers that we're seeing now are a really great reminder that you should never pigeonhole a player into who they were last year, who they were 2 years ago. So many of these guys are so young, still learning, and the consistency they've shown for how early it is in their career has already been amazing. But then when you have players like Zywoo, Donk, Monesi, bit in their rookie year, and you compare everybody else to them, it sort of feels like, well, if you're not that good right away, you never will be. Well, Torji is an example of a player who can get there, and we have to see now how much farther they can get. Mao's are a very young team. Torji is the tip of the spear on the op. They have a lineup that looks like it's more or less going to stick together, and I think that Torji's consistency has been paramount. So really want to give massive congratulations to Torji for cracking top 10 on this list this year. Most impressive year for me from a Mouse Sports player, and I think there is certainly more to be seen about what he can pull off in 2025. Now, the player that I'm about to mention goes beyond the numbers like no one else does on this list. Somebody who failed when it came to results, failed when it came to some deep runs, but never failed to impress at every single round, every single moment that he possibly could. Number 9, Elige. This is the one guy on the list that beats the sample size of stage mashes and accomplishments almost completely. In fact, if you took those into account at all, he might not be on here. But obviously, it's Elige. Mega carry for complexity, top fragging, Grand Slam rifler, and superstar NA player who appears to be still very much in his prime. 27 and fragging like Nico is. Elige and Nico, you can tell they still have that chip on their shoulder of never getting their major, and Elige obviously has a far worse team. You guys know that I never believed in this complexity project, and you can watch the video that I did with Thorin and Tech Girl describing exactly what I feel like has failed for complexity. None of those conditions, however, have anything to do with Elige. I am willing to say, however, that he doesn't have a sterling reputation as being an easy teammate to play with, but if Elige was a better teammate, maybe complexity win a few more key rounds over the year. But if Elige has better teammates, they close out many tournaments. Honestly, there was a chance in the beginning of CS2 that complexity could have been the best team in the world. struggled. And when they fell to FaZe after Sydney, it never got better. And despite all their efforts, through all the trials and tribulations, through all the troughs and valleys, it was Elige walking X Factor through every single round to get multi-frag openers, wielding unrelenting passion and confidence no matter the opponent. The uncompromising NA superstar in Elige has been provably important on winning lineups in the past and certainly will again be in the future. We might not see Elige on complexity in 2025, but I guarantee you, whatever team he joins, he will improve. Number 8 is probably a shoe-in for Anchor of the Year. It's Bit. That's right, the Grand Finals Inferno Merchant, just like Magic's, showed up exactly when he was needed in the most important game of the year, the Copenhagen Major Grand Finals. It wasn't a clean year for anybody on Na'Vi, but win or loss throughout the second season for Bit, he showed his 2021 Na'Vi form. There were definitely some games, and again, nobody on this Na'Vi lineup was consistent, but if there was one who should be represented at the highest point on this list, you have to argue it would certainly be Bit. I think there were some weird signs where you can't say he was 2021 Bit from beginning to end, but this lineup came together to form a gestalt, a team that could be greater than the sum of its parts, to make a run like the one they had in Copenhagen happen, which was both a miracle and obviously unsustainable. But from that point, I think they looked at each other, they decided they have a project that they can believe in, and they came together. As soon as EWC came, after the start of the second season, they really proved how much better that they could get underneath the Blade and LXCB combo, and really took to the server and tried to punch above, and that's what this Na'Vi lineup did. And I think that if Bit didn't have his raw form in the position that he had, Na'Vi wouldn't have seen any of the results that they did in the second season. Him and Ima, for me, I think were the two most important parts to join up with JL, who had the best year overall. But Bit is somebody who is an incredible anchor to watch in terms of demos. He is somebody who has mastered multi-fragging with the perfect peaks, has always got an amazing headshot rating. He plays very hard positions. Inferno is one of the key maps, and even though I have Bit at number 8 here, I think there is a part of me that thinks we know how much better Bit can be, and you would expect that Na'Vi in general, even though they were shy of making playoffs at the Shanghai Major, could show more, and I think that we will get that next year. But we've got to put the recency bias aside, because when it came to Na'Vi, it looked like they were on the precipice of an era, and I think if that major was timed correctly, maybe they could have gotten it. But running out of gas is disappointing, but it doesn't take away from the fact that they accomplished a lot for a team that was severely lacking on top 20 talent. So congratulations to Na'Vi and Bit for touching number 8. This player is why I wore my fun jacket, okay? Number 7, Flamesy. I absolutely loved Flamesy this year. Massive year of growth for him as a second/third star on Vitality. Reliable versus all tier 1 opposition. Never getting nervous on stage like he was in the OG days before he joined Vitality. And I think this is somebody who has shed his reputation as promising but immature, as promising but too immature to replace someone like Dupree. Flamesy has clearly taken to his Call of Duty and become an absolutely amazing, crafty, fluid, and sharp rifler in all situations for Vitality, under pressure or not. I cannot overstate exactly how much he has done for this team throughout the year. And Vitality were a team that were, I would say, 3 key best of 3s away from trophies. Not always grand finals, right? But a couple of opponents they absolutely should have been able to take down. You could even call it FaZe twice at both majors. And yes, maybe you say this is because they choked. Unfortunately for Flamesy, I think that if his team performed a little bit better, he would have had a top 5 year as a rifler. And even though he didn't, and even though Vitality couldn't crack the code when it came to those very key matchups, I didn't have any reservations about saying that Flamesy tried his hardest. So amazingly consistent year. He's somebody who I literally compared to Rain. And, I was a guy who in 2020 made a video about Flamesy as a rookie on endpoint, saying that he plays all these key positions so damn well and he should get a chance in tier 1. And here he is in my top 10 list. So proud to be able to say that. You could see the talent back then and he's realized it now. And he got a massive opportunity to get a chance to play on Vitality. But again, taking it by both horns. Flamesy, I think there's a top 5 in his future. To put it lightly, I think Flamesy has a team that absolutely should be hoisting trophies. But in a year with so much parity, nothing is guaranteed. As we've seen, it is cutthroat out there. But I think he's in the jungle with his machete, ready to carve a path out for Vitality to victory in 2025. This roster move technically didn't happen in 2024, but at the tail end of 2023, the most amazing risk was taken by your number 6 player, Shiro. Last year, Shiro was playing on Cloud9, and he took the career risk, and I call it a career risk because he came to an org that is not considered a super org to take a chance to play with a player who he predicted as his bold prediction in 2022 to be a top 20 player one day in Donk, to come and actually put his money where his mouth is and play with him. Shiro decided to join Spirit. This is the best roster move of CS2 by far, and he replaced Art Frost right after they had won an event. This was a very sad moment for Art Frost, but there was no denying that Shiro's ability to close, late round decision making, and top 5 potential, as he has already realized in the past, was undeniably important for Spirit to try to take a hold of, and they grabbed that opportunity. They won a Bet Boom Dacha and Major in the same damn year. Shiro comes in at number 6 as one of my favorite clutch players in the history of CS2, CSGO, even though we only really saw him start playing in 2020. He's got a lot of innovation alongside Jame in the passive opping role, which obviously means their numbers can be quite high. And it's not a year where Shiro was as consistent as Donk, as important to carrying, even though he's got more of a pedigree than anybody else. He had some low moments this year, but still his overall consistency was just good enough. And his what I'll call Fianchetto style opping really was perfect for the system that Chopper had on this lineup. And Spirit end this year with an argument for getting team of the year off the back of, Donk and Shiro as a combo, I think, on this lineup. And yeah, that's why he's coming in at number 6 for me. Okay, that's top 10 to top 6. I really want to hear your thoughts, of course, in those comments. Let me know. Leave a like if you like this series. Honestly, just amazing to be able to celebrate all of our favorite players every single year at the end of the year. I'm going to publish a document that just got all my top 20, lists for the last 5 years, since the few years in the past we used to do the silhouette thumbnails and make it more mysterious as to who I was about to say. But I think it's about time we just start celebrating the history of being able to say we've uploaded, 5 years in a row to make this list. And it seems like a lot of people are doing their own top 20s now these days because HLTV has provided a graphic and way for people to get involved. So it's a very fun thing. Again, this is something I love. It's a list that I think it's like there's some subjectivity. There's definitely some objectivity as well, but it's the arguments, right? It's showing the math as to why we like each player that I think is the interesting part. So yeah, appreciate your guys' support as always. Again, code launders and AceZone, and I'll see you very shortly for top 5 to 1 in a year, the most exciting race for top 1 that we've seen since 2018. I made a video on that a few months ago if you guys watched that, and the hype is definitely real. A lot of it may have come down to Shanghai. Let's find out who's number 1 in 2024.